So hi out there. Good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon at 2:30, and I'm so excited to be here today with my two friends and colleagues who are both recruiters. One comes at it from a corporate background, and the other one from a contingency background. And if you do have any questions, please do put them in the comments, and we will be able to see them. I have some questions, and I have some questions that were actually posted on LinkedIn. So let's get started. Felipe, why don't you start and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, Annette, and thank you for inviting me here. This is a great opportunity. My name is Felipe Cofino. I am the VP of HR and Talent Development for Signal Financial Federal Credit Union based out of the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And before I was in the banking and finance world, I was in the hospitality world for about 23 years. And basically, throughout my career, I've always been very passionate about recruitment and helping people find jobs. It's something that every job I've ever had, I always kept it close to my chest and made sure that I kept a part of recruitment at every job I held. And I found I enjoyed it, I was good at it, and I really get satisfaction of helping people find that right fit for that right culture with that right company. And along the way, I've become a career coach, a LinkedIn coach, and I help out with resumes and interview skills. And this is part of my passion. So a little bit about me.
Great, thank you. Tom?
Tom, I'm the owner and founder of CareerThinker.com. It's a boutique company. We have 3 recruiters. We recruit for 4 national companies and have 6 resume writers and career coaches. So we get to see the struggle from both sides. I started Career Thinking in 2010 when I left corporate America. And like Felipe, I had a long career in sales operations, and human resources. And I decided I needed to do something different. And I reshaped my career into Career Thinker. And similar passion to help people find the next right fit for them. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. So, okay, so let's just jump right into it. One of the things that candidates want to know is, what do you look for in them? When you're looking at, just generally, what do you look for when you're looking at candidates? And then I'm going to ask you each, if your different takes on this are a little bit different, being that you come from this in a little bit of different perspective. So you can just, we've all kind of moderated together, so please feel free to just, jump in. I'm pretty casual here.
So are you talking about what we look for in a resume?
No, just in a candidate generally, when that, you look at the candidate, the resume, the LinkedIn profile, when you meet the person, what are some things that make you say, this is a good candidate? I mean, is it, engagement, energy, background?
Well,
I can take. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. First.
Well, first, they have to be able to do the job for the most part. I mean, there's some types of jobs where the training could get someone there quick, but depending on the type of job, they have to do the job, be able to do the job first, and then it comes down to are they the right person fit. I mean, so that's not a big answer, but there's a lot that's packed into that answer.
Okay.
Well, I would just add, I think, looking at it from the holistic point of from the resume to the person, starting off with attention to detail, making sure that first impression that you don't have errors or grammatical errors or spelling errors in your own resume, or that your cover letter says, I'd love to join ABC company and you're applying for XYZ company. But as far as characteristics, I look for someone who wants to take initiative, who's hungry, who gets excited when they talk about a certain aspect of the job. And you interview somebody, you know what I'm talking about. They may be very calm about something, and all of a sudden they will tell me about when you work on this project, and then all of a sudden they light up and their eyes get open wide and they get very passionate. That's what I'm looking for. Someone who's hungry, who wants to contribute, who wants to be a team player. It's not all about themselves, and somebody who's still very hungry to learn. I'm not looking for someone that thinks they know it all, but they still have that hunger and the desire to grow and learn, as well as share what they've learned with all of us.
No, it sounds like it's a lot about energy. And I would just briefly mention, I did recruit very briefly, and I'll never forget talking to a candidate. I was recruiting for social media. And when I got the candidate on the phone, everything looked great. And I was talking to her, and she just could not be less interested in what I was saying. And I asked her, are you interested in this job? She's like, well, not really. I'd really rather do something else. And, obviously I could tell immediately. And do you get that sense when you're talking to people? You can tell if they're going through the motions or they're really interested. Tom, you're shaking your head. You want to jump out of that first?
Yeah, especially if you're going to cold call, you get a resume and you call somebody, and the way they answer the phone, that's typically when you get the real personality. When they answer the phone, they don't know who you are, and they sound like you woke them up at 1:30 in the afternoon. Right from the get-go, the energy of the person, you want positive people on your team, no matter what they do in a team. They need to be positive about. They need to want to work for your company. Typically, very shortly, you could tell if someone's the right person fit. I feel like in most cases.
Yeah, there are definitely some red flags that stand out. I will say, whenever I say to somebody, "Look, tell me why you applied for this position." I just want a job. That is the worst thing you could ever tell me. I just want a job. I get that personally. When you're looking for a job, you just want a job. So you can get it. I respect that. But don't tell that to somebody when you're in an interview, because they want to hear why you want their job that they have at their company. And if it's about, I just want any job, that's somebody who doesn't have a lot of direction, it seems like, and they might question, are you be committed? Are you going to stay until just a better job comes along? So that's a big tell for me.
So Felipe, let's go a little more into that. Are you looking for someone that, resonates with your company? They've done research and they, how does that play into it?
That is always something that is an added bonus. I think it makes them stand out in the interview. Because two things. One, it saves me time from having to share all that information about the company. Because let's face it, we are selling the company to them as well as they are selling themselves to us. And so for me, it's one of those things where if you really are focusing on the individual and they are trying to promote themselves the right way, I think that really comes across very positively. And I forgot the last part of that question you had. I'm sorry.
No, just does it make a difference, if they have that research and they say something to you, like they believe in the mission or they like something or whatever it is.
Yeah, the research part I think is so key, because especially if there's something about the research they did that resonates with them, that's what we want. Going back to what Tom said about being the right fit, you want somebody that has similar type of mentality and values and work ethic, ideally, but that right fit sometimes is just having that passion for wanting to do something and do it well. And I think at the end of the day, if you find that person that has that energy and that has that desire, and they've researched the company and there's something about that job that really resonates with them, or about the company culture that resonates with them, that to me stands out, or makes them stand out, because they're excited.
Okay, great. Thank you. So sorry to jump in there. I didn't mean to cut you off. So Tom, since you're working, you're recruiting for your clients,
Right.
Do you expect candidates to have researched, and do your clients want to know that they've researched the job?
Most definitely. I mean, and build, all my clients are building material companies. So if you're not passionate about selling, decking and siding and windows, so you have to know the products that you're going to sell. And, a lot of times when I started speaking to someone, they don't remember the company they applied for. And sometimes I'm looking at the resume, it's really good. I start having a conversation and they say, well, what position is this for? And where is it? And it's just like, what the hell? I mean, come on. So the research is very important. And, in every company, I hire from competitors, so I'm hiring from same type of job as different types of companies. But if you can pinpoint the top product or the top how long the company's been in business, one company I was established in 1941, so that's something I want them to know. So yeah, the research is very important. It's a given. It's common sense, but it's not.
I know. Well, go ahead, Felipe. Did you want to add something?
Well, I was just saying, and also I think nowadays they have such an easy way to research us. When I was growing up, it was hard to research people, companies. Now you have so many ways to do it. And so when they tell me they've done the research on the website, okay, that's great. And that definitely stands out. But when they take it to a step further, I saw your LinkedIn page. I saw your company Facebook page or your Instagram page. I actually watched your videos on your YouTube page.
Wow.
That tells me they had enough interest to actually sit there and watch a video and really read. That really resonates well with me, because that says you definitely are hungry for this job. You want to work for this company and you like what you saw.
Wow.
And the reason this is important because we want to hire somebody long term, so they have to make the right decision too. So it's not just we want them to research a company; we want them to work for us. So they need to understand what the company is about. Otherwise, a year and a half down the road, they're looking for something else. So.
No,
And
no.
another thing too, I send out my clients, I send my candidates, typically 5 each position upward to the company I'm working for. The people should also research the people they're going to interview with. Look at LinkedIn. Oh, Mr. Smith, I see you've been at ABC company for 12 years. What keeps you here? Just have some type of research on the people that are going to interview you. We never had that power before. Now, because of LinkedIn, in most cases, we have that power.
You can even Google them. Google them.
Yeah.
I mean, that if they're in the news, that might be an indicator of, oh wow, they're in the news. Or if it's maybe bad news, you don't want to go there either.
No, absolutely. Research tells you so much. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about research later. But one of the things that I've heard, I actually heard a recruiter say this recently, is we don't even look at the resumes. It's all about LinkedIn for us. So, all we do is we go to the profiles, and that's kind of where we go for that. So, what do you say about that, Tom?
Well, we recruit for 4 companies. 2 companies are kind of using the standard method of posting jobs on board, posting jobs online on the company's website. The other 2 companies, the people we hire, they don't even post jobs. We recruit 100% through LinkedIn. So depending on the company, sometimes LinkedIn is what they see first. Sometimes they see the resume first. They have to be in sync. They have to have the same story, the same value, the same vibe. Because you don't know how you can get found. In today's world, social recruiting, getting found on social media, is really a way to get noticed. So, I know the question is which is more important, the LinkedIn and the resume. It really depends on how you get found. So they're both, in my world right now, they're both equally important.
No, I agree with you, and I just I have just heard that recently. A recruiter said that they don't even ask the candidates for resumes, which I found kind of hard to believe. But what's your take on that, Felipe?
Yeah, I agree with Tom. I would not discount the resume. I want the resume because I want the resume to validate what's on LinkedIn and vice versa. So I want to see both. But to Tom's point, I'm always going to look at the resumes of people who applied for the positions that I have posted. However, if I'm searching and sourcing for candidates through LinkedIn, I'm not going to have the resume first. So LinkedIn has a wonderful feature where you can take, if your profile is up to date, and this is another reason why you want to have your profile up to date, is we can take your profile and put it down to a PDF or resume format and download it. I do that when I find someone that I reached out to and they've gotten back to me. I'll go to the hiring manager and I'll download their profile into the resume format. I'll let the hiring manager know, don't judge the format of the resume. This is a LinkedIn resume.
Right.
The content is theirs, but don't judge if it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing to the eye, which it is not bad. But if you're looking for a resume that looks flashy, it's not the flashiest resume, but it structures it into resume format. I'm going to show that resume, and then if it all works out, I still want them to send me the resume after that when they apply officially, because I want to, again, make sure that there is any discrepancies. If the dates don't match or if the jobs are way off, I'm really going to question it.
Yep.
No, I hear that, and that was my experience. And the clients that I work with say the same thing. If they're interested, they're still going to ask you for the resume. The hiring manager always wants to see the resume. So I'm not thinking that's going anywhere anytime soon. But let's go back to LinkedIn. Let's talk a little bit about that. So people want to know, because you're on LinkedIn. And one thing I know for sure is that if you have a skeleton profile, you're not coming up high in a recruiter's search. So, that's one reason that people really need to, have that robust profile. But Felipe, how do they get your attention? What do you see on that profile that makes you say, you know what, I'm going to contact this person?
When I'm sourcing people and I do a search and I search for keyword, the job or whatever I'm looking for, and people pop up, I will say, not having a photo does raise a red flag. I'll still look at them. If the rest of their profile is 100% complete, then it might be a personal reason why they don't want that photo up there, and I'll respect that, and I'll still consider them, obviously. But it does help if it's on there. I think when I look at a profile and things are missing, it's not complete, I'm not looking for your activity and your post activity and all that, unless you're applying for like a marketing job type of thing. But if you're looking to apply to be in accounting or in a role of HR, for example, I just want to see that it's fully complete, that you have attention to detail, that you've filled out your information, you filled out your experience, you filled out your skills, you put the about section in, you have a headline, you have a background photo as well. It is your digital resume. It represents you. And at the end of the day, what I would recommend is look at your profile. If you were hiring somebody, would you hire yourself based on your own profile? That's what I would ask you to look at.
No, that's so true. And, I tell people also that, if you don't have that background photo, it just makes you look unsavvy. So Tom, I know you can add to that. So what do you look for?
The background photo shares some type of subliminal message to what you do. You can have a sunrise picture. You know how I like sunrise pictures, Ellen. And that.
Oh, okay.
She called me 3 different names already today. So you want to have the right background. You need to start branding yourself right from the headline. Now, when I use LinkedIn Recruiter and I narrow down my list, I try to get to like 120 people, and then I free that list. I start working that list. I just see some basic information in that list. I see your name. I see your headshot. So your headshot makes me want to click on your profile. I see the headline, 220 characters. So the headline's really targeted towards what I care about, and that's the skill and the level of the job title. And then once I click on your profile and I see the nice about page, it lets me know about you, your core, what you bring to the table, what some of your strengths, what your leadership is like. I coach people on LinkedIn all the time, and the about section, did they get read? If everything else works, yes, it did get read. But tell me about you, not about your career, because I'm going to see about your career when I scroll down. So, and then a full career history. You're not a job title. It's what you do in a job title that makes you special. So fill it out.
If I could just add to that.
No, please go ahead. I was going to say, I see you wanting to speak there.
No, because he's so right. The about section is so important. And I think, people have to remember it's a chance for you to tell your story, highlight your accomplishments. Don't write out your resume in the about section. You already have your experience section for that. That about section should be a story that feeds into your experience. And ideally, you want to highlight those accomplishments or projects that you really are proud of. Use emojis if you want, because the important thing about the about section is whether people read it or not. A lot of people do read them, and they are very valuable. But the other valuable part is the keywords that are in the about section. When I search for keywords, it searches the about section, so it's going to capture that and pull up your profile for me if I'm looking for you.
No, it's so true, and I see so many profiles where it's 2 or 3 lines, or it's a third person bio, or it's all about the company. And one of the things that I sort of do with my clients is try to tell their story, like why did they get into why did they start in this field? And sometimes it's very interesting. I worked with a client where the sibling got a computer for, I don't know, a holiday, a birthday or something, and it sat in the corner. And my client went over and started playing with it and found the software, developing and all this stuff. And now he is, a leader, in that industry. That's what he does. But the story, I think, is really interesting. So what do you think about that, Felipe?
I think, as long as the story is not like a whole essay, I think it's a great idea, because right there, the short story you just told me tells me, wow, this person's kind of had a lifelong passion about this. And that's something that if you do what you love, it's not always hard work, if you really love it. So I love seeing the story. And again, highlight the story if it's relevant to the job you're applying for, and there's accomplishments. I think those are the important things, because it shows that you have a lot of interest and that you're good at it.
No, I agree. And Tom, I know you'd have something to add to that for the about section.
Well, I also teach the NCOPE course, and that's a LinkedIn course for our industry. And what I teach is to take the about section, because there's 2,600 characters, break it down to subsection, then put a nice capital heading, so the story and whatever someone wants to read, they can find. So if someone's a sales director, how I drive top line sales, my leadership philosophy, how do I influence people to make decisions. I want to know how you do what you do, and that's a great place to do that, the about page. Talk about your core. So now whatever job you get hired for, I know what type of person I'm getting.
And if you Google trending words about that job title that you're looking for, and once you Google those trending words, add those keywords in your about section, because those are the ones that are most commonly searched, and that will help you stand out as well.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. Very, very cool. So, so what is, maybe one or two things that someone who's looking for a job can do to really improve their profile if it's been up there, they've been meaning to work on it for 6 months and they just haven't gotten to it. So Tom, what would you say they should do like today would be the one or two easy, quick kind of things they could do to make it better?
The headline should be written towards where you want to go next. Make sure you have a photo and the about page. Start with that. You get some storytelling in the about page, and then go back in, and because it's not just one thing you should do. There's so many things you do, but the headline targeted towards where you want to go. Get some keywords in there, and you know what happens when you have keywords. The headline, the job title lines, and the skills section, those 3 areas get indexed first by LinkedIn's algorithm. So they get looked at first, and the rest of the content is indexed second. So those areas are really important. But the headline, a photo, and the about page is something I would work on first.
Do you want, Felipe, I'm sure you have things to add to that.
I totally agree with Tom there. What I would say is, for someone who hasn't been on there, if you haven't completed your profile, it gives you a status bar, and it tells you how far along you are and your completion of your profile. Once you reach 100% completion, that status bar goes away. If you still have the status bar, I think wherever you are in that stage of that status, fix the next stage today, and then tomorrow do the next stage until you get it fully complete. And going back to that background image, a lot of people might not say, I don't have the talents to do digital kind of arts and all that. You don't have to. We mentioned Canva earlier. Canva not only will give you ideas, it gives you templates specific for LinkedIn so that it fits. Because if you just take one of your own personal photos, it's only going to capture a third of it, and you don't want that to happen. So Canva allows you to really get images that will fit your dimensions of the background so it stands out. And Tom's point, put things into that resonate and look at other people's background photos that are in a similar industry or similar jobs that you want, so you can get some ideas of what they put in there. And Canva will allow you to do that for free.
No, I agree with you. I use that a lot. And one thing I know Tom and I have discussed before is, you don't necessarily want to take the template they have and just not change it. You want to go in there and put different photos and, even just use the dimensions. So I think you would agree with that, Tom?
Oh, definitely. And exactly. There's a lot of templates there, and I've seen people use the same template. So I'm starting to see, because a lot of career coaches are saying Canva, and I see a lot of the templates being overused. So you could change the color. You could, use half of one template, half another template, play around with it, make it your own, make it look, and make sure it's relevant to what you want to get found for. So the band image should connect to your career somehow. And I just was coaching someone yesterday, a LinkedIn coaching call, and she just had mountains in the back. It was a beautiful picture, but it has nothing to do with development and training. Sometimes just adding a tagline or a quote to that picture could make a huge difference.
Right. And, as Felipe was saying, it's so easy to use. You can just take whatever you have and add text to it. And there's just so many different things that you can do with that. And
to Tom's point, don't be worried about comparing yourself to other people. Everyone started playing around with it at some point and just got better because they played around with it more. So play around with it. Come up with a bad image and know what you did bad, and then learn from it.
Well, I have one client. He put a picture of him surfing on the West Coast, a huge wave, and I asked him, "Is that you surfing?" He goes, "Yeah, that's me." So we actually bought the picture and more, and then we added a tagline to it. Nothing comes from comfort zones, or staying in a comfort zone, something like that. And part of the branding message, his headline was stepping outside the comfort zone. So it kind of did a synergy there. So, you could use odd pictures if you want, but just make sure it's connected somehow.
And for those of you that have talents, I love photography. It's one of my biggest passions. I started using my own images finally, because I realized that some of my images, instead of taking it from somebody else's or from Canva, I had some of my own pictures that I actually really liked and were really good. If you have someone in your family or you yourself are a good photographer, tap into that resource.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tom, I will share that Tom is a photographer as well. So We'll have
We got to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to talk about that. So, you have like a lot, you have a lot in common. So I'm so happy to have you both here. So, one of the things that I've heard recently too is that employers, and I forget if there's a percentage of it, but employers, recruiters like to see candidate videos. Now, not necessarily, a video resume instead of the regular resume, but of 2 or 3 minutes of them talking about themselves. And so I'd like to know, your take on that. And, do you think that's something that they should try to have, I don't know, professionally done, or is it something that is better if it's just more of a relaxed sort of video? So, Tom, why don't you start us on that?
Well, TikTok just announced they're connecting with some other career platform where you can actually apply to jobs with the video and not even your resume to start with. We'll see how that works out. We can't avoid video. It's going to be part of the process. It should never replace a resume, and LinkedIn should be an addition to. The challenge is it has to be authentic and it has to be kind of good. So I'm waiting to see, like with LinkedIn Recruiter, I could ask candidates 2 questions and they could choose to answer those questions in text, or they could choose to answer the questions in a video. I would say only about 20% of people will answer the questions in video. The 80% will actually just reply the answer in text. I think people are afraid of video. I'm afraid of video. I just started getting comfortable in the past, 5 or 6 months. So what I'm afraid of is some of the biases, and if you don't have the video, would you get judged against for not having a video? So we see how this plays out, but we're not going to be able to avoid it. It's going to be part of the process. So I didn't answer your question, but that's how I feel about it.
So well, no, you did. So I was like that too. I hated video. I hate my voice. I hate seeing my face on the screen. But you do half a dozen and it doesn't bother you anymore. It just doesn't bother you. So Felipe, what about you? Do you like to see? Do you think videos are a good thing, and should people maybe do them and put them in their featured section or something on their LinkedIn profile?
I think it's a standout. I always, for those people that aren't comfortable or very introverted, I always think about those people and thinking, okay, this is an opportunity for you to get out of your comfort zone, but am I going to make that a requiring factor? Not in today's world. Are we getting closer? Yeah, I think it is getting closer, because at the end of the day, regardless of your personality, you're going to have a face-to-face interview regardless. So that video is an opportunity for you to practice. Now, LinkedIn has a great feature that a lot of people don't realize, that if you hit on the bottom of your page of LinkedIn, the last thing on the right-hand corner is job search. You click on that job search, and when that opens up, on the very top, the 3 little dots in the top right-hand corner, you click on the 3 dots, you'll see prepare for an interview option. You can actually, and they have a bunch of questions there, and you can record yourself answering those questions to see how you come across. And it's a great practice thing. You can even record it and post it if you want to share it with me. But I don't know. I personally don't know if I do that, but I definitely like to see how I look and how I respond to the question and how I sound. And it's a great opportunity for you to practice if you aren't comfortable doing those before you send a video. But I think if you do send a video, it does make it stand out.
Okay, so since we're talking about sort of gone into this interview type sort of discussion, what do you look for, Felipe, when you're interviewing a candidate? When you are either on the phone, or I know today, do you do like video interviews mostly with the candidates, and what do you look for?
So I do all video interviews. I actually started doing video interviews back in 2019. So it was before COVID, but we had Teams, and with Teams, anyone can join. You don't have to download it. So it made it very easy. And I wasn't getting as many people doing video interviews as I do today, obviously, but it was something that what I look for is I look for somebody who is really knows what they're thinking or talking about, are well-spoken, are able to articulate what they want, why they want this job, explain the process of the job that they've done in their current job very well. I'll give you an example. If it's an accounts payable position and you've done the job, if you can't walk through that process and speak to it well, I'm really going to question how much you're really doing the job. And I think it's important for people to really show their best effort professionally, looking professionally dressed, making sure that they are ready and prepared, have questions. Even if you have all your questions answered, I always say the one question that they'll never answer on their own usually is, tell me why you like this working here so much. At least ask that if they answered all your questions, because it always leaves me with a little negative taste in my mouth when they have no questions. Like, well, are you really that interested then? Because I'd like to think I covered everything pretty well, but I can't imagine you have no questions. So that's a big.
And Tom, what do you look for?
Well, for me, it's difficult because there's too many times that I have to spend so much time in discovery mode. Doing the discovery interview, we have to discover someone's strengths, the wins, the successes. When the resume does that, I have a great interview. Like right now, we're actually hiring for a benefits manager for a company in Miami, and we have all the resumes are job postings. We have close to 100 resumes. We narrowed down to 5. We started interviewing them, and every single resume is a list of job functions. So I have to spend so much time in discovery mode. So people are listening, make sure your resume is the bullet points are value-based, not function-based. So that aside, once I get to that understanding what the value is and stuff, it's just everything put together. I agree 100% with Felipe. I don't want to repeat what he said because I agree 100%, but I spend too much time with too many resumes in discovery interview, and I don't want to do discovery interview. I want to tell me more about this, tell me more about that. Those are interviews I want to do. I'm dying to do those interviews, but if I have to spend 20 minutes discovering what you try to figure out if you're actually a good fit or not is really hard.
So do you find that also, Felipe, that, those task-based, boring resumes just make it more difficult to interview?
Yeah, it definitely, it's one of those things where it definitely makes it harder to understand what the person has to offer. And I think if they are able to put it there clearly, it's so much helpful. And the other thing I would say is informational interviews are phenomenal. I have a over 60% success rate of hiring people that I've done informational interviews with. And these are people that either approached me about an opportunity that we had open, they want to learn more about it, or I approached them, they weren't looking for a job, they were happy in their current job, and I just used to invite them out to coffee, now in COVID over video, to say, I just want to talk to you about it informationally. And it's amazing if people are open to that, it is one of the best ways to learn about the company and the candidate, and you really have a great conversation. And it's something that's such a valuable way to learn about each other that you end up hiring them, for me at least, 60% of the time.
Well, and I agree 100% of the time. The information interview going after the passive job seeker, those who aren't looking. That's what I do on LinkedIn. When I'm searching for someone, I don't know if they're looking for a job or not, and I don't really care. If I find the right talent, I'll talk to them and hopefully convince them that I have a better opportunity. So I agree 100% with that.
So what is the thing? Because people often wonder, is it okay to contact recruiters? And is it okay, Tom? Are you cool with that? Somebody just contacting you because they see your recruiter and they just want to chat.
I'll be honest, they contact me, have a really great resume, and it fits something I have, I love it. If they contact me, have a crappy resume, I get pissed. I'm sorry. Just the way it is. So if you're going to contact me and you want to get into a sales position, you better have a really great resume. Otherwise, you're going to piss me off. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. So, go ahead, Felipe. So what about you?
No, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. When you say I'm sorry, go ahead.
When people reaching out to you, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm absolutely okay with that. I think, especially because, I'm on LinkedIn so much that it's an open door to reach out to me. You can DM me very easily on there, and you don't have to have my phone number. You don't have to have my email. So for me, I welcome that only because I'm so active on LinkedIn. If I wasn't, then I wouldn't be responding. But if people reach out to me, I think to Tom's point about a specific job, make sure that you have done your research. Look at the job description. Make sure that you have skills that you think can add value to that job. Because if you're looking to be the VP of marketing and you just graduated college, you're not being realistic here. Come on. I mean, that's the frustration part is when, be realistic at the job. Because sometimes I feel like, did you even read the job description? Did you even look at the job title itself? to really think about, is this a job that you are even potentially qualified for at any level? Because, I find some hidden gems sometimes that don't have the best experience in the world, and that's great. But when you have nothing related at all, why are you applying for it?
No, I hear you. And when I was recruiting, I have to say that most of the resumes that I would get were not even, the people were not remotely qualified. So how much of the job description, Felipe, if you can start, and then I'm going to ask you, Tom, how much should they have of the qualifications before they respond? Sometimes people say 80, sometimes they say 60, and, or I know it's tough, but if you can try to give me a little idea.
It depends. I think the higher level up, the higher the percentage, I would say. So an entry level position, I would say maybe 30%. Mid-level position, 50%. Manager and exec level, 80, 90%. So I think it really depends on the position, because at the end of the day, there are some people that I'm willing to train. I'm willing to help them grow and develop. And sometimes I don't want them tainted with their old job did it this way, their old job did it that way, and they're so focused on how they used to do it that they're not teachable. So sometimes you want that person that doesn't have all the experience, but has some.
Okay. So Tom, you've got it a little bit. I mean, you have to talk to them, and then you have to sell them to your clients. So what's your whole take on that, percentages, or how much people should have before they respond?
It's hard to put in percentages. Like, I hire a lot of sales reps, from national to territory managers to inside sales people in the building materials industry. I've been so successful in hiring people from the pharmaceutical industry into the building materials. Now, sales is a talent. Whether you can sell, you can sell or you can't sell. As simple as that. So I always look at that ability to sell. So there's no really set percentages. It's the whole package together. If I find someone that has only a couple years of selling experience, but it's in electronics, hopefully they could take that sales technique and turn it into building materials. But they're the right fit, they have the right attitude. So it's a combination. And I agree, the higher the level, the more of a percentage you want them to be qualified.
Okay.
If I also add, I think it's important that realistically, people look at job descriptions, and I started doing video job postings before COVID, where I would videotape the department, the team, and each employee in that department would say why they think you should come work for us. And it was a way to get a chance to see who you might work with, the space you'd work with before you even applied. Because let's be realistic, how many people really read the full job description? We like to think they read it, or they read all of it, but I know a lot of people read maybe the first few lines. Oh yeah, I can do this, and it's apply. And so I think we have to get creative with that sometimes. But if someone's really interested in the job, they're going to read the job description, and they're going to make sure that they look at it. And that's something that tells me you're serious about it. You understand the job, and you read enough about it to be educated enough to be able to know that you are qualified.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We're recruiting for an outside sales manager in Long Island, and we posted a job, and then posted about 6 days, we posted 257 resumes. One of the things, requirements, that you have to have 3+ years of Salesforce experience, because it's the core selling and tracking tool. Out of those 257 resumes, only 22 have Salesforce on the resume. So either they don't have Salesforce, and this is a requirement that you must have, and it's not even a preferred requirement. So yeah, a lot of times they don't read the whole job posting.
And actually, it's important tip you made is if you read your job description and say, oh, I do have those skills, and they're not on your resume, go back and add it on your resume, because those are things they're looking for.
Exactly.
No, I agree with you. I have one client, I've worked with him a few times. He's actually a really dynamic salesperson. And when I was working on his resume, at one point, I was looking at the job description, and it was looking for a budget experience, but he didn't put that in the materials he gave me. I used the worksheet, and so I just emailed them and said, oh, by the way, this is here. Do you do this? Oh yeah, I do that. And so easy to just add it to the resume. So I hear what you're saying. So I have some more questions for you, but I do want to ask you the questions that were on LinkedIn, because this is something that somebody is really wanting to know. So much, the person says, how much importance do recruiters give to recommendations on your LinkedIn profile? Tom, do you want to start that, and then I'll ask
Yeah, well, yeah, I do value them, and I will read them after I decided I like the possible candidate. But there's a couple of things. You want to make sure your quid pro quo recommendations are not parents. So what I mean by that, you have 15 recommendations that someone wrote for you, and then the same 15 people a day before after you wrote for them. That totally just washes out. It becomes like a favor. So the ones that you wrote for people, you don't have to make that public. You can make that private. So it won't disappear from their profile, but it won't show in your profile. So be careful with that. And again, the recommendations, vendors are okay, your support team, that's okay, but I value your bosses and higher level people above you in companies you work for. I value those type of recommendations more. So yes, they matter. It could be reading a couple of great recommendations could actually make me want to pick up the phone and call you right away.
Okay. And Felipe, what about you?
I would agree. It's that added bonus of when you get to the recommendations. If they're good ones, it almost wants you to pick up the phone and call them instead of just sending them email. And I agree with Tom. The higher up people that do recommend you, it definitely stands out, looks better. And you definitely don't want it to look like you're just doing tick for tack, because then it does lose meaning. It is good to have a nice mix. It's okay if some of them are tick for tack, but you don't want to make all of it like that, because then it does lose its value. And reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to previous managers you've had, because especially if you had a good relationship with them, it's amazing. Some of the people that have written me recommendations, they wrote down all this professional stuff, but then they added a part about, and it's been a valued friendship over the years, even after we stopped working together, which I was like, that's really nice. Then I'm like, oh wait, is it going to look like my friend wrote this for me? But no, it goes to me. I look at it as it goes to the value of the relationships, building relationships that continue. And I'm always a big proponent about building relationships. So hopefully it just shows that even though I may leave a company, I still maintain a relationship with those people after I left. So it's you want to make sure that what they read now, you can approve them before you post them. So if they put in there something that you don't want in the recommendation, you can send it back to them and say, can you take this one part out, because that actually came across, that might make me look bad, or it might not read well.
No, that's great. So it's a bummer that you can't alter, reorder the recommendations anymore. I really miss that. They took that ability away on LinkedIn, unfortunately.
4 years. 4 years ago they took it away.
See, Tom remembers.
You're not putting it right, Tom.
So the next question from this person is, if you reject an offer, I guess a job offer, maybe because you had multiple offers and it wasn't the best fit for you at that time, does that create any kind of a negative impact? So Felipe, do you want to take that first?
So if I understand the question, so if they got multiple offers and they did not accept my offer, is what they're asking. As long as you don't ghost me and communicate to me, I appreciate the offer. I've actually accepted an offer with somebody else. Thank you very much. That's all I need. If you give me that, I'm respectful, and I will re-interview you again in the future in a heartbeat. But if I spend time interviewing you, and I spent time talking to you, and then you just ghost me, our applicant tracking system, you better believe I'm leaving a note in there that you ghosted me, so that when you reapply, it's going to pop up and let me know that you ghosted me last time, and I'm going to remember that. I have a good memory, but the computer helps me too. And that to me is the worst thing. You are burning a bridge. People think, I don't care. You should care. You're burning a bridge with people, not just the company, but the recruiter. That recruiter might go into Google, might go to Amazon, and guess what? When you apply there, they remember your name. Because I remember a lot of people that applied for 23 years at Hyatt. I don't know why I remember them, but I remember when they pop up on the applicant tracking system, like, wait, this person used to apply all the time at this company. I remember this. So don't burn that bridge. Communicate to them, and it's okay that you didn't accept their offer. Just let them know.
That's great. And before I turn it over to Tom, I want to say that was their next question. If you apply to the same company, would you be giving less preference? So you're saying if they leave, if they just are polite about it, then it's not going to hurt them replying to your company in the future.
No, not at all.
Okay. So Tom, what about you?
I agree in general, but if I'm working back and forth and we're going through salary negotiations, we had 5-round salary negotiations, and you tell me you can take the job if I give you this, I work hard, I get you that, and then you turn around and no, I'm not going to take the job now, I want someplace else. yes, that's going to leave a bad taste in my mouth. And most likely, I won't go through that round again, of 5 rounds of negotiation with you. So typically, in general, someone's searching and they're dealing with job offers. I totally get that. You have to worry about yourself first. But it depends if you had a lot of going back and forth. So
I agree with that last part there about if we're in the final stages and you're a final candidate and we're negotiating with you back and forth and we went back and forth a few times. And after all that, and we kind of matched what you said you were looking for, and then you declined it, you wasted a lot of time that we could have been spending finding somebody else for that position. In that case, I do agree with Tom that I might not be as inclined to re-interview them in the future. I'm also talking more about if they interviewed, made the offer, and there wasn't a whole lot of negotiating, and they were politely and like, you know what, I got 3 offers I got to choose from, and unfortunately, I'm going to go with this one. I really did enjoy your company, and they were respectful. That's what I'm talking about. But if they were like making us go back and forth a lot of times and it made it seem like they wanted the job really badly, that's a waste of our time.
Yeah, and you work so hard to get the hiring manager to say, okay, we'll give them whatever it is that they're looking for, and then they say no. So one of the things that I just want to, I have actually, let's just go on to the salary negotiation. I read recently, Robert Half did a survey of managers, and this was in October of 2020, so not that long ago. And the managers, 36% of them said that they were more willing at that point to negotiate salary with new hires than they were the year before. And 50% said they were just as likely to negotiate. Now, I know from personal experience and people I talk to that most people do not, or a lot of people just don't try to negotiate. So, Tom, if you could kick us off, what is that about the negotiation? Should candidates try to negotiate, and what can they negotiate?
honestly, I expect every candidate to negotiate with me. I'm part of the negotiations with two of the clients I work for. I negotiate the salary. I do the actual hiring once they decide who they're going to hire. And we're hiring salespeople. So I would expect a salesperson to, come back with something. Get a little bit more out of the relationship. The operations managers, typically I expect them to negotiate. Now, I do find a lot more men will negotiate than females. It's just maybe it's cultural. I don't know, but I am seeing females negotiate more than they have in past years, but it's still a big difference. I offer a female a job at certain $90,000 and $50,000 commissions, and she'll take it, and I'll do the same thing with 10 men, and they'll all negotiate. So that's what I see out there.
Oh, it's definitely a culture thing. It's definitely a culture thing. So Felipe, what's your take on that?
So, I think that negotiation is important to a point. So and this is my philosophy. So I'm not a fan of lowballing people. They're making less, I can lowball me. No, I like to pay them what they're worth. And I usually educate people when I make the offer that I took this many years of experience that you have and some transferable skills that you have. And I took that into consideration when I came up with a salary so that I wouldn't put you at the minimum of the pay range. I wanted to put you higher up in the pay range because you brought some value to it. So to me, with those people, I'm not looking for them to negotiate. If they do, I don't have an issue with it. I'm not looking to it. But to Tom's point, any sales position that I'm recruiting for, you better negotiate because that's your job. You are negotiating things left and right. You're selling yourself. You're selling people. I expect you to at least try. And of course, I expect you to sell yourself during the interview. But if you're in a job where you're negotiating contracts and rates and stuff like that, I need you to show me that you have that skill set. So I want you to negotiate. I would expect it. I'd almost be a negative mark if you didn't.
But Felipe, when you do a salary offer, typically the salary band, and there could be as much as a 30% swing from the low end of the band to the high end. The companies I work for typically want me to stay mid-range for the most part, but obviously there's room to do more. So typically when you make that initial salary offer, where in the salary band is that offer typically?
Well, and I look at the quartiles of the pay range, obviously, and simplify it very basically right now. If they're in the 5 to 7 years of experience in our company, they should already be at that midpoint. At that 5-year mark, they should be at that midpoint of the salary. Coming from the outside, it's hard to validate their experience sometimes. We didn't work with them. We don't know how good they were. So
Right.
I do want them, if they have that 5 to 7 years experience, I want to get them close to that midpoint. But if they have 10, 12, 15 years experience, I'm going to put them over that midpoint.
Okay.
No, that's great. And one thing, since you're talking about internally, people often think if they're working at a company that, people know what they do. The boss knows what they do. Maybe they think, oh, the boss is boss, and they're down there working nose to the grindstone. And, everybody knows that how great I am. And so why don't you give us a little fix on that, Felipe? Do people know what they're doing? Ready to just promote them?
I wish people knew everything everyone was doing. I wish that was the case. And the phrase "welcome out of my shoes" is popular for a reason because people don't know everything. We're very fortunate. We have an amazing CEO, François Verlayson, that every time we've had an executive move on, get promoted, whatever happened, he actually took on their role for a while because he wanted to experience their life for a little bit before we filled it. And he was the head of HR before I joined. And they were very grateful that he didn't do it anymore afterwards, as they said. But he did a fine job. But he saw the value of what I do now. He appreciates what I do. So when people have that ability, it's phenomenal. But unfortunately, most don't, unless they make a concerted effort to go down and spend a day with somebody or a week to really learn about what they're doing day in and day out. Most don't, in my opinion.
So how do people, if I'm in a job and, you're my boss, how do I make sure that that, all the great things that I'm doing and, do I ask you for stretch assignments and tell you, I really want to move on, move up, or how would that work for the managers in your company?
Well, there's two approaches to that. One is, like you said, speak up and volunteer to be a part of a project. We have lots of projects going on at many times, a lot of initiatives, and we are welcoming of new ideas. We're not one of those. I always tell people, if you want to come into a company and be told to do ABC every day and then go home, don't apply with us. We want you to come in. We want you to challenge ideas. We want your fresh ideas. We want your fresh approach. So we welcome new ideas. I'm not going to guarantee that we're going to do all your ideas, but we've tried some crazy stuff here, and some of it has worked wonderfully well. And that's because people were open to sharing their ideas. We put a ping pong table in our branch. So when you go into a branch to do your banking, you can get a coffee, you can play ping pong, and you can sit down with Starbucks and meet with people. It's a very unique branch. There's no teller line in our branch, but it's one of those things that it stands out. So we welcome those fresh ideas. We want those fresh ideas. And the other thing I think is making sure that you are very going back to before, being hungry for it and going after what you want. You had a second part of that question as well, or no?
No, actually, I want to put it to a different angle to Tom. And so, obviously you are working for clients, and how does that work if they are you part of the interviewing process if they are also opening a position to internal candidates? How does that work?
It depends. I have a recruiting team that takes care of a lot of recruiting. I get involved with some of the higher level recruitment. But before Career Thinker, I was a manager. I was in charge of 10 locations. To piggyback what Felipe said, it really comes down to the leadership structure. If the company has real leaders and every management level leads, they should be pulling up their people. So they should know, every manager, your direct manager should know exactly where you're good at, where you need help, how to get you up and move you up. Unfortunately, corporate America is starving for great leadership. So that's, I think, where if you have a good leader as a boss. And one thing that I've learned over the years, I consider myself a good leader, and people come up to me 20 years ago and say, thank you for bawling me out when I did this wrong. I had when I worked for BJ's Wholesale Club, I had a lot of young people working there. And I set a lot of them on the right track. So it comes down to the leadership in the structure of the company.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% because you have to, if you have a good leader, they're going to push you to do more. They're going to push you out of your comfort zone. They're going to see that you have qualities that maybe you don't see in yourself, and they want to encourage you. And I think that's so important because you're right. A strong leader is going to get their hands dirty with you and be able to help you do your job. I always want to know everyone on my team's job, and I want to be able to do it. Not as necessarily as well as they do, but if they're gone, my payroll person, I always joke with them. If she is not here and I got to do payroll, everyone will get paid. I promise you. But might there be some mistakes here and there? Okay, yeah, I might have to fix a few things, but I promise everyone to get a paycheck. We all need to be involved enough to understand what our teams are doing and be able to do it to a certain extent and pick up the ball if they need help. I can go into the training room and take over training if I need to for my trainer. I can do payroll if I needed to. Again, would I do it as well as them? No, they do it every day. And I'm glad that they do it better than I do, because that's why I have them on my team. Surround yourself with great people, you end up having a great team.
Well, great. So, we are getting towards the end here, and I thank you so much, both of you, for spending this time with me. Tom, why don't you start? Is there anything that, I haven't asked you, anything that you would like to share, Tom, before as we're winding up here?
Well, that's a little question. There's so much I want to share. On what type of topic? My mind is swimming right now.
Okay. Do you want Felipe to go with this, and then you can think about it for a second? What would you like to share, Felipe, that I haven't brought up? Whatever you would like to share is fine.
Yeah, I think I would recommend that people don't be worried about reaching out. Don't be worried about doing stuff on LinkedIn or reaching out to recruiters, and don't be afraid to ask for help. There are so many people, whether it's on LinkedIn or on Clubhouse or whatever platform. There are people out there that are generous with their time and are willing to do reviews or even just LinkedIn reviews, resume reviews, give you tips on an interview before you go. You might have someone in your family or in your friend set that has that skill set. Don't be afraid to ask that. There's no shame in that. I think there's more shame in hiding that you're afraid of something and then you end up not coming across looking good. Ask those questions, be willing to learn and grow. And I think if you do that and have a positive attitude, those are the steps that you need that will help you get started on the right track to getting that job.
Great, thank you.
And to add to that, just putting yourself out there. And LinkedIn is a great way to get out there, and network. And networking LinkedIn is less intimidated because you're doing it from a keyboard. You're not doing it in a big room with a bunch of other people. So don't be afraid to network, and just make sure you're putting yourself out there and just knock on doors. Send those emails, send those messages on LinkedIn, because you'd be surprised. I do a lot of free, LinkedIn reviews with people all the time, and there's a lot of people in that industry that does that. So take advantage of it.
And if you're going to do it on LinkedIn, that's one of the most powerful ways of doing it. Tom's right. DM them. When you DM them, reference something that is relevant to that person that you're messaging, whether it's a post they did, an article they wrote, or something about their company. Don't just hit a blind connect. Send a personalized invitation to connect and tell them why you want to connect with them. And if they do connect, then again, resonate with them with something they posted or ask them a question about an opportunity that you saw they have on their website. Right. And that's where you can get some great conversation. And that way, I will tell you, I've hired people that I've talked to on LinkedIn. And then when I see their application popped up 3 months later, I'm like, wait, I remember this person. And I pull them up on LinkedIn and I see our conversation. I'm like, oh, that's right. And I'm telling you, it helps.
Well, and I agree with that. It's one thing, I have Sales Navigator and then my recruiters have LinkedIn Recruiter, but if I have a conversation with someone, I keep notes in every single conversation. So if someone comes back to me a year later, I have the notes there. So you'd be surprised how recruiters do that.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's out there watching now or is watching it on the replay. And thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Annette.
Thanks for having us. Take care.